All right, so if you followed the first video, you've got Splunk working. You're able to add some data through the user interface. You're pretty happy. You're able to start learning Splunk. You should have spent some time experimenting with uploading data and just goofing off at trying to break it. But a few things have probably come up. Number one, you notice we're running as a non-root user. Number two, we're using insecure protocols in order to log in and out. And we didn't really talk about the licensing too much. I thought I'd take a few minutes. This is coming off the Splunk admin kind of learning thing from their website. These are sort of the things we should be touching in on next. So the first thing on the list is getting the non-root user. So if you remember, we have PASEF grep-i Splunk, and you can see Splunk is currently running as the root user, and that's no good. So let's go ahead and get rid of that. So I'm going to stop Splunk. That's going to take a minute or two. Depending on the power of your system, how much data, how many buckets and things like that, we're going to talk about buckets later, are running, it can take a little while to kind of change Splunk. So we're going to user add Splunk, which should have been added by the installer. I just wanted to verify that. So I want to change ownership recursively to the Splunk user Splunk group opt Splunk. Now if I look at opt Splunk, let's go. You can see it's all owned by Splunk now instead of root. The next thing I'm going to do is actually enable the boot start for the Splunk users. We're going to go opt Splunk bin Splunk, and I forget the exact syntax. I think it's enable. I'm going to boot start user Splunk. Yes. Okay. So now this enabled Splunk to start, but as that other user. So in theory, we should be good to start Splunk again as the correct user. So I'll do a little check and boom, now Splunk is running as the Splunk user. So this is a little more secure because if Splunk for some reason gets taken over by the bad guys, it's locked within the context of the ability of the Splunk user. You might not run as a Splunk user. Your company might issue you a service account or a specific account per host. There's a lot of different ways this is done, but this is one way of just sort of getting you where you need to be. The next thing you'll notice is that we're not using HTTPS. So let's go into Splunk. I think it's general settings, server settings, general, something like that. Let's poke around here till we find it. And okay, here we go, web port. So 8,000, that's a bad sign, right? So we're gonna go, since we're not running as a root user, anything, we cannot create listeners, we cannot have applications running on anything lower than the port 1024. So we got to go in here and say, okay, web port is now going to be 8443. So kind of like 443, but because we can't run anything on a low port like that without running as root, we have to put an 8 in front of it. That's a security feature of Linux itself. And so we're going to go enable SSL. Nice. Session timeout, that's 50, if you are in a PCI environment. I think it's both CIS and PCI require 15 minutes on this. Just something to keep in mind. Cool. And nothing else to change here, so I'm going to hit OK. And you'll see now Splunk wants to restart to change the port. So we'll go ahead and restart Splunk. That's going to take just a minute or two there. Let's go back to our shell right now. Let's make sure it's running. It does indeed appear to be running. And let's go delete this, 8443, and make sure I'm on HTTPS. Try that one more time. Possible I haven't opened the port, so let's go get my cheat sheet I put up from the previous video. We're just going to go firewall. Add that firewall port in. Good sign, so it says success. That means I didn't have it going before. So let's give this guy a refresh. HTTPS 8443. And I don't know if I've given it enough time. Let's get netstat on here. I think it's called something else. Let's see what's listening here. If I did open the port correctly, it's not listening on there. Try just... Interesting. Not loading for some reason. Come back. Let's get netstat on there. Install netstat on CentOS 7. I know there's a SS or something like that command, but I've just never got into it. Yum install nettools, I think is what it just said. Yeah, I know there's a new command for this, but I'm old. Grep-I listen. So let's just see what ports are listening. And I see 8443 listening just fine. Let's try that one more time. Maybe we just didn't give it enough time. Dot 100 8443. Maybe we didn't change the protocol. Nothing but live, nothing like live fire troubleshooting here. I think that's always the best. You can always learn something from it. Nada. Oh, maybe I need to reload the firewall rules after all that. Oh, firewall, CMD reload, I think. Oops. Oh, there we go. In my cheat sheet right there the whole time. Ah, now we're talking. Okay, reload your firewalls, ladies and gentlemen. And we're in. I should probably reshoot that, but I won't, because I think we should all see that troubleshooting is never goes like it goes on YouTube videos in real life. Nice, so we're in. I mean, we're still not secure. We don't have a signed certificate. I'll make an entire video on that later. Maybe I'll do one using that free SSL service. But yeah, at least we're going over a secure connection, or a HTTPS connection now. We changed the port to 8443. But I don't like 8443. Nobody wants to type 8443 at the end, right? We all want this to be assumed when we're using HTTPS. Which is why the next thing on my list is actually port masquerading. So we're actually going to take incoming communication from 8443 and pipe it to the default of 443. I'm going to pop that in there. Boom. And then this is live fire. Haven't done this yet. It's my first and hopefully only take. So theoretically this should go perfectly. Where's my cheat sheet? It's -- reload. That's the trick. So in theory now I should be able to take off the 8443 and it will default to let's open a new tab. Oops, new tab please. And I should now not have to type in because it'll assume 443. Didn't work. So let's see here. What did I do wrong? Forwarded port, add masquerade. Oh, maybe I need to add permanent. That's the issue there. See, this is what you do. This is what happens when you add things on the fly, people. -- permanent. Okay, let's add. Chances are what I did was I actually got it working and then reloaded. Let's just do this. Copy, paste. Boom. Copy, paste. Boom. Now let's reload just to make sure we did it right. Okay, taking bets. Will this work? Oh, there we go. Looking better already. We got rid of that annoying colon port on the end. So we've hit a few things here. So we went ahead and got to a non-root user. We moved to HTTPS. We actually got it to work on the 443 port instead of the 8443 port. Keep in mind, some environments you might be required to do all this sort of redirection on a central load balancer like an F5 appliance or an Nginx, something like that. I've got the commands right here for you. I'm going to save these and put these on my cheat sheet. Port redirection, 8443. And we learned the reason why we do that, and that is because you can only use high ports when you're running as non-root users. So, and I'll put this cheat sheet link inside the YouTube video, of course. Cool, cool, cool. Looking good. And let's see, licensing. So I don't have a Splunk license. I guess I could talk to an old coworker or something, or email Splunk, see if they'll give me one. But I don't think it's that complicated. I don't know if it needs a lot of discussion. We're going to click on Settings, Licensing. And in here, we can see that we are currently in a trial. So we can actually go in and change licensing group and choose the type of license. If we had a license from the vendor, we could just click this and we'll get an XML file. We just copy paste it in. We can also script that by putting that in the licensing folder. We can flip to what's known as a forwarder mode. This is just for forwarding data from one location to another, such as a heavy forwarder, which we'll talk a lot about. Or we can go right to the free license that we could be in right now. The free license is just 500 megs a day, no alerting, and no forgiveness if something goes wrong. We can actually see that's the add license. That's the XML page I was just telling you about. And then what else do you need to know about this? There's no licensing. Theoretically, if we had multiple licenses in here, we can combine them. We could chop them up by various indexers. We don't have that. We're in a standalone environment. We don't even need that. We could, in theory, become a slave, which just says that another instance of Splunk manages the license for us. Note that's going over port 8089, which I noted as the API port down here. So I'm just going to go ahead and add licensing right in there for our cheat sheet. All right, so yeah, maybe I'll order a license and then later on I'll chop that up for us so that I can kind of show you guys how to chop this up amongst indexers. But there is a feature that probably is worthy of showing, that if we did have 5 or 6 indexers, we could say these two have this license and this one has this license. And that's great for when you might be supporting an operations team and a security team, a compliance team and a security team, yada, yada, yada. Chopping that up is pretty helpful. You can also buy licenses in chunks from Splunk, 25 gigs here, 20 gigs there, and go from there. So I think we've hit all the high points here. We've installed the license. We've set up basic firewall, or well, now it's called basic, but port redirection and that sort of stuff. We've kind of hardened things by getting rid of the root user, and we've got us on HTTPS. So I think that's a good chunk of data right there. I'll go ahead and call it right there, and maybe in the next session I should get some data in and start doing some analytics. Till then.